All right, welcome to the Jeremy and Andy Talk Movies podcast, where we are remote once again. I'm down in Tennessee.
Ah, must be summer.
Yeah, Andy's still holding down the fort in Illinois,
Somebody's got to do it.
but we never let a little distance get in the way of the greatest podcast in the world. So
And it takes way more than distance.
even though we're a little different setup, all the ways that you consume our product is the same. You can still watch us on
Right.
YouTube. You can still listen to us anywhere you listen to podcasts, and of course follow us on social media.
And we're still just as lovable and charming, even over long distance.
Absolutely, haven't lost
Yeah.
any of the charisma and the banter back and forth. We
That's
just got
right.
it all. So this week we are returning to a franchise that's been going since '93.
93.
Yeah, and it's the sort of third iteration of this franchise.
It's crazy.
I know. So we're, of course, talking about Jurassic World Rebirth, which I don't know if I've ever heard a clear explanation for exactly what this is as far as a soft reboot. I know they were trying to get back to the sort of origins of the original, but I don't know. Do you
I
have
don't
any
know
idea?
either.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I mean, they're not ignoring any of the previous installments. I know that. I read that. I mean, they don't really talk about them.
Right.
Like the Jurassic Worlds, the Chris Pratt ones, they don't really talk about them in this movie. But, who knows? I don't know anymore. It's hard to keep track of all this stuff.
Yeah, ultimately, I guess it doesn't really matter. If somebody
Yeah.
said, do I need to see all the other Jurassic Parks in order to understand this movie? I would say, no, you don't. There's a
No, you
couple of
don't.
title cards at the beginning that'll tell you everything you need to know. And
Everything
then you
you
can
need
just
to know.
watch the movie. All right, so I'm going to give a summary here, and then we'll
Yeah.
jump into our analysis. So set years after the parks have closed, the last surviving dinosaurs are located in the lone climate that can sustain them around the equator. An unsanctioned expedition is launched to one such island, where a team hopes to acquire DNA samples from 3 of the largest dinosaurs, which, according to their research, will have incredible medical ramifications. Of course, once they make it to the island of dinosaurs, the mission proves more perilous than they ever would have considered, especially thanks to the unknown mutant dinosaurs that were experiments of the previous regime. Andy,
Yeah.
was Jurassic World Rebirth good?
No. This is one of the most forgettable and mediocre movies I have ever seen. I will never watch this movie or think about this movie again for the rest of my life.
All right, coming in strong.
I mean, why beat around the bush?
I was very unsure of how you were going to feel about this movie from a medium to bad spectrum. I did not expect
Yeah.
you to come in and say it was good. But I walked away saying this movie was fine.
Yeah.
It was a competent movie made by competent people, but in the end, I don't feel like it justified its existence.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Maybe I did come out a little hot. It's not a poorly made movie. Everyone who's in the movie is doing what they need to do. This has got to be an all-time, why does this movie exist?
Absolutely. So, yeah, my note was like, at no point in the movie did I feel like somebody dreamt up this story and said, well, we've just got to tell this,
Yeah.
right? Instead, it felt like a studio said, we need another Jurassic World movie, and people may have done their best to try to create something good, but it just never had the seeds of like, we've actually got a story to tell, so we've got to tell it.
Nope. Absolutely. So yeah, in making this movie, I mean, they come up with some fun ideas, I mean, like people rappelling down a mountain while being attacked by a giant flying dinosaur lends itself to being entertaining. But man, the biggest thing about this was just, thinking back to 1993, like you talked about in Jurassic Park, and just the magic you felt watching that for the first time. I mean, nothing in this movie even scratched the surface of coming close to that. I mean, they have Hollywood. I don't blame Gareth Edwards. I don't blame Scarlett Johansson. I blame Hollywood. I mean, they have just sucked the life out of this franchise. I mean, this is the 7th Jurassic Park, Jurassic World, whatever you want to call it, movie. They've just sucked the life out of it.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest problem with this movie is that there have been 6 before it. Like you said, the first one had such awe and wonder about it. The
Oh
first
my
time the
gosh.
audience sees dinosaurs in the movie, we feel the way the characters feel. But
Yeah.
here, for the seventh time, as much as they tried to recreate some of that magic by having a character who was just fascinated to see the dinosaurs, and they
It's gone.
brought back some of that original theme and tried to recapture some of that magic, and it's like you just can't on take 7 of this.
It's gone. The magic is gone.
Yeah.
And it's a real bummer because really, while sitting and watching this movie, it really just made me long for, the days of Jurassic Park.
My real concern with what we're saying is it possible to have wonder like that again? Is the problem that, like you've said it before, it's kind of a problem that movies can do anything now? It's
a
hard to
huge
imagine what we're ever going to see again that's going to make us ooh and awe the way Jurassic Park did.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a legitimate concern. I've long said it. I don't often think I'm right, but I do think I nailed this one where, yeah, the worst thing that ever happened in movies is the ability to do everything and anything. It's really hurt. So think of it like this. I mean, this is not any kind of big spoiler, but there is this scene in the movie where they see a certain kind of dinosaur, and then the camera kind of pans back, and there's dozens of them, and it's playing that Jurassic Park theme that it plays when Sam Neill and Laura Dern see the dinosaurs, and you feel nothing. Nothing. I had no reaction to that at all. If I put on Jurassic Park right now, when Sam Neill takes her head and turns it and their jaws drop and they see those dinosaurs, there's a 99% chance I get goosebumps on my arm. And I've probably seen Jurassic Park, I mean, I'm sure at least 50 times. So yeah, I mean, and I know, like, not everyone's Spielberg. Jurassic Park, a movie like that doesn't come out all the time. That's what makes it so special. But just that attempt to create magic versus how it felt in the moment to watch that similar scene in Jurassic Park, the two don't even compare. Jurassic Park obliterates it.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out in my mind if I could put a finger on why the first one is so different than say this one in regards to the human characters, because I think the human characters were so interesting in the first one.
Yeah.
And I think that this one, as much as any of the sequels tried to develop some human characters, they just didn't. And I was like, why are the human characters in this one just sort of hollow to me? Whereas the first one, I just felt like they were perfect. And I can't necessarily put my finger on it other than to say, I guess they're well written and just well portrayed by the actors.
Yeah.
And again, not that I think any of the actors are bad here, but there's just something about that original that just everything felt so pitch perfect.
It did.
And
yeah, you can never underestimate the Spielberg touch.
That's true.
I mean, that's why Jaws stands out, versus all these, or a big part of the reason why Jaws stands out versus all these other shark movies. He just has a way of making the characters in his movie feel real. You feel attached to them, you feel connected to them, and you care about them. And that's just missing badly from all these other Jurassic movies. I do agree with you. I think this one gives it more of an effort than the Chris Pratt ones.
So I don't think I'm going to get into heavy spoilers or anything, but I'm going to go ahead now and get it, say spoiler alert, so we can talk details and not worry about anything. So as we're talking about human characters and them not really connecting the way that they did in the original, the regular family that they bring into this story, and I think they do, I think they bring in this regular family to put them into the situation so it feels like there's more stakes, because all the other characters, they put themselves there, and I think they knew there's this, like, there's going to be a tendency for the audience to say, well, I do feel bad for you, but also you didn't have to go do this.
Right.
But by bringing in this regular family who was just shipwrecked, get picked up, and then is put in the situation, we get to say, oh, well, I do feel bad for them. They didn't want this.
Right.
But at the same time, every time that family was on screen, I was less interested.
Yeah.
I don't know how you felt about that.
I did, and kudos to the boyfriend for single-handedly trying to bring this movie crashing down. Like, he's just it's not his fault. It's just such an obnoxiously written character. Just the buffoon who does the stupidest thing always until the very end when he kind of doesn't. And
yeah.
And again, I think that's effort, but it just didn't work.
Yeah. There's something to be said. We said this about several movies, like the the use of tropes and the use of stereotypes that they do so perfectly in the first one. You know,
Yeah.
the greedy lawyer and the
Yeah.
you know the like nerdy paleontologist and the businessman who doesn't see any of the issues because he's just trying to push his dream through. Like all these stereotypes that just work. And in this movie, I was really thinking like, other than the main scientist guy who they really push, like I'm a really nerdy dinosaur guy,
Yes.
they didn't really nail down personality about any of them. I was like, okay, so I saw this movie with my brother, and we walked out, and I said, what did you think? He's like, it's fine. He's like, I normally like ScarJo, and he's like, I didn't really care about her in this movie. And I was like, it was kind of a generic character, wasn't it? He's like, yeah, I don't really know what she was in this movie.
Very generic. The reason she is effective is because she is believable doing these kind of BA type of things. Like she's just really good at that. But yeah, the character itself is just bland and uninteresting.
Yeah. I mean, it felt like they were like, we're going to let you do cool things. And then it almost felt like the script note probably just said, be charming. Didn't have any lines that were going to be naturally charming, but they were like, you're ScarJo, just make this charming. And so she tried her best. She flashed a smile. She acted like she was having fun on the adventure.
Yeah.
She had some chemistry with the main nerdy guy, but it just ultimately, again, if you're like, tell me more about this character, I got nothing.
Same. Nothing.
The idea of the like crossbred mutant dinosaurs is significantly less interesting to me than just the real dinosaurs. I know that sounds weird saying real dinosaurs.
So much less interesting.
It's funny because Jurassic World did this and now this one did it. They're playing up the idea of like, oh, people get bored with dinosaurs, so we got to make something new and fancy. And yet every time they try to make something new and fancy, I am less interested. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so, your classic Jurassic Park dinosaurs, the T-Rex gets one scene, and it's one scene with no real tension because it's with the family that nothing's going to happen to.
He's not eating that little girl.
Right. And even that, I'm sitting there going like, the original Jurassic Park, I knew the kids probably weren't going to get eaten by the T-Rex, but why did that have so much more tension than this scene? But I think it's because Spielberg had a way of putting him in the right amounts of danger, and it wasn't constantly just like, he's going to chomp and barely miss him.
Yep.
I'm going to chomp and barely miss you is like cheap camera scare stuff, and it can only happen so many times where you're like, okay, luckiest family in the world is just going to get through everything. Whereas in the other one, it was the slow build of like it's getting more and more dangerous. T-Rex is stepping on the car and it's slowly sinking. All that stuff builds that tension as opposed to just constantly near miss, near miss, near miss.
Yep, absolutely. And it's like we've had too many of these movies when it has to be a plot point in these movies now that in the movie world that the public is sick of dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Like that's a big thing with like the last 2 or 3 at least. And it's like, yeah, because you have to address it because you've made 7 Jurassic Park movies now.
Yeah. And then the other dinosaur, that's the signature dinosaur of the Jurassic Park series, is the raptor. And there's hardly any raptors in this. It's in one scene that's played for a laugh with the dumb boyfriend character.
Yeah.
It's a raptor sneaking up on him, and then it gets, snatched up by the new mutant dinosaur, and it was done obviously to establish that this is this is even a more dangerous dinosaur, and it's basically a flying raptor.
Yes.
Here's the deal. Raptors are cool. They just are. They're very sleek. They work.
Yeah.
The flying raptor with the big fat neck wasn't nearly as cool looking.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about it on here. Even if your movie is big and your idea is huge, like if you think back to 1993, Jurassic Park is a huge swing. But they even within that huge swing, though, they still just streamline it and make it simple. T-Rex, raptors. We don't need crossbred mutant. I mean, this main thing that shows up at the end of the movie literally looks like something from Star Wars.
Yeah, in fact, it was partially inspired by the what's it called, the Rancor from Star Wars,
Return of the Jedi.
And also, like several monster, the xenomorph a little bit. All creatures with giant foreheads, because obviously it had a giant.
I just thought it looked stupid.
I did too. I wasn't a fan of it.
No, I didn't like it at all.
Yeah. So the little girl in the movie kind of adopts a dinosaur.
That's so stupid.
And it named it Dolores. And I was like, this is such an obvious marketing thing to sell kids toys. Like there'll
Yeah,
be little
that
toy
dinosaur.
Doloreses. Yeah.
That dinosaur does not factor into the movie at all.
And that's when it occurred to me that maybe the most genius thing that I've never thought about with the original Jurassic Park, but the genius of the original is that it was so marketable without having to ever feel like it was put in the movie just for that purpose, because the movie was about creating a product. They were creating a park to sell.
Yeah.
So the park was full of merchandise, which a park
Yeah.
would be, and then it naturally becomes the Jurassic Park merchandise. They didn't have to shoehorn anything in.
No,
It was flawless.
That's a huge part of like the first third of the movie is that lawyer talking about, oh man, lunch boxes, cups, toy, like, yeah, it's built into the plot of the movie.
Exactly.
Yeah, and here that stupid Dolores, just one of the worst movie characters of the year.
Well, and you're just like, there, what's the girl's plan here? Like, she leaves
Yeah.
the island with it. As soon as they get picked up, whoever picks them up is like, well, you can't keep a dinosaur. It's immediately like,
And
going
it's
into
like nobody
captivity
in her family, like she has an older sister and her dad with her, and then the boyfriend, and no one's like, "Hey, man, you're not taking a dinosaur with you."
or even things that we've learned from previous Jurassic Park movies, like, hey, if you take a kid dinosaur, the mama and daddy dinosaur are going to come after you. I kept expecting that, like the big versions
Yeah,
of Dolores to
that's
show
a
up.
huge part of the second of the Lost World.
Yeah.
Yeah, Eh. just yeah, a lot. Just so many things just did not work in this movie.
Yeah. I did want to just point out maybe the biggest nitpick of the movie is that the opening scene, all of the disaster was caused by a Snickers wrapper getting into a vent. And I'm like,
Yeah.
this top-notch facility maybe needs to be a little tougher to take down than just that. If a
Yeah,
Snickers wrapper,
if a Snickers wrapper just brought the whole plant crashing down, yeah, yeah, and so kind of right off the bat, you're just like, the we're not the first one just feels so innovative and fresh and original from the second it starts, and then when this movie focuses a lot in the opening 5 minutes on a Snickers wrapper just randomly blowing into all the worst places, you're kind of thinking like,
I mean, it was literally like, am I watching a Final Destination movie?
yeah, that was not great.
Yeah. Let's talk through the people behind this movie, because there are some impressive people involved. So you mentioned it already. Gareth Edwards was the director. Gareth Edwards, no stranger to big monster movies. He did Godzilla in 2014. I actually really like that Godzilla.
I like it.
Now it is dwarfed by Godzilla -1 in my
Absolutely
Godzilla
it
rankings,
is.
but I thought it was a solid one. He did Rogue One, a Star Wars story, which is a movie that I think is actually pretty good.
I really like Rogue One, actually. I feel like it doesn't quite get talked about enough.
Yeah, and then he did The Creator in 2023, which is a movie that just had no impact. I think it bombed, but I thought it was actually pretty good.
It was a good movie, but yeah, it just kind of came and went.
Yeah, so I actually read in the trivia Gareth Edwards was planning on taking a little bit of a break, but like he was a huge fan of the Jurassic Park franchise, and this was the franchise when he found out he got a chance to make one. He was like, I gotta do it. I just jumped into it.
I mean, I don't blame him, honestly. I'm sure it was a good paycheck for him. It's going to get his name out there, and especially coming off The Creator not doing well.
Yeah. And I thought he made some of the right choices. Like he talked about how the first one had a lot of tension. It was scary, and he was trying to get back to that. I feel like the Jurassic World movies were just kind of big, dumb fun, and he wanted to get back to a little more of that. This is a scary movie.
Yeah.
He tried. I didn't think it landed all that well, but
No, but he does some cool stuff. Like, I don't like the big bad dinosaur, like I just said, but at the beginning when it's kind of like comes out of like, it's like red and smoky in that room, like that visually was cool looking visual.
yeah. And I should say, like, everything they do in this movie is really impressive visually. I mean, just the whole kind of chasing down and getting the sample from the giant dinosaur in the water.
Yeah.
Like, it's amazing that we can just create this and it all looks
It
good.
is crazy.
And,
It's crazy.
yeah.
Yeah. He did a couple cool things too. Like, we're in the spoilers. Like, once they get off those boats, they're kind of on the island, and a girl who was on the boat is kind of standing there. And in the background, you see a dinosaur, and all of a sudden it just kind of sneaks up behind. Like, that was kind of well staged by him. And like, I did appreciate some of that stuff, but it just didn't have much of an impact. But like I said, I'll reiterate, I don't fault him for anything in this movie. I thought he did the best he could.
Yeah. It was written by David. We never quite figured out exactly how you pronounce his last name. David Kopp is what I'm going to go with.
Sure.
But David Kopp wrote the original Jurassic Park
Yeah.
screenplay. Obviously, it was based on the Michael Crichton book.
Yeah.
He wrote Mission Impossible, the first one. He wrote
Yeah.
Spider-Man, the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. And then more recently, he wrote Black Bag this year, which is a movie that we both really enjoyed.
Really liked,
So-
yeah. Yeah, I like this dude. I mean,
Yeah, it just I feel bad for the guy. They're asking him to write the 7th version of a Jurassic Park movie, and it's got to
Yeah.
be tough to try to come up with original, fresh ideas that are going to work.
yeah. Yeah, I don't have much to add. Like, he did fine. Like,
Yeah.
he did fine.
I think it's interesting that you do go through his IMDb, and what you see is a lot of first installments in franchises. Like I said, the first Jurassic Park, the first Mission Impossible, the first Spider-Man.
For Spider-Man, yeah.
He's done a good job of staying away from, like, once the well is dry, and this is, I think, is the first one that I remember him really going back to a well that was kind of dry. And
Yeah.
maybe it's just him pushing himself, saying, hey, let's see if I can do it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Here's the deal. It definitely could have been worse. I would have.
It could have been so much worse. It could have had just cringy, awful dialogue, and there was really no point in the movie where I was like, "Oh my gosh!" It's not a writing issue. It's not a directing issue. It's not an acting issue. It's just the well is run dry issue.
Yeah. So we'll talk a little bit about the cast. So we already said Scarlett Johansson is the lead in it. She plays a character named Zora Bennett.
Sure.
ScarJo, of course, she's been in a ton of things. She was in The Island in 2005. That was my first introduction to Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah.
Even though I know she was in things before that. Obviously, most famously, she's in the MCU as Black Widow. She was from 2010 to 2021. She's part of that franchise.
Yep.
2019, I think it was the year of ScarJo. She was in Marriage Story and
gosh.
Jojo Rabbit, two of her best
And
performances.
Infinity and Endgame.
Yes, you're right. I should mention that.
That's an insane year.
Yes, we already said it. She just doesn't have much to do here. She looks like she does well.
Yeah, she looks the part. She's believable when she's shooting a gun or scaling down a mountain. So I mean, I do want to give her credit for that. But yeah, she just doesn't have a whole lot to do.
Right. There's just not going to be any moment from this movie or any line that you're going to remember. The way you're going to remember lines from the first one from. Like Life Finds a Way, and Goldblum delivers so many good lines. You're not going to remember, Laura Dern having her head turned. There's nothing like that in this movie. You're going to be like that iconic ScarJo moment in the franchise.
Nope. The best thing I can say about her is just she's believable in the role.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jonathan Bailey plays Dr. Henry Loomis. Bailey, I've only seen him in Wicked last year.
Same.
It kind of threw me off because he just looks very different in this movie. Obviously, in Wicked,
He
he's
does.
playing the very handsome, charming, full of himself Prince. In this one, he's got glasses and a beard. What a nerd!
Right.
But
and you're right. They really lean into this guy's so nerdy.
so he plays a nerd, but of course, he still is a good-looking guy, and he looks great the whole time. He looks cool the whole time. He's still adventuresome in this movie. I actually thought he was given the most to do in the movie, and so I think he comes out the best. I was thinking, this guy, I thought he was good in Wicked. I thought he was good in this, and I was like, this guy's got something.
Someone to keep your eye on. Yeah, he does a good job in this.
Also, just being named Loomis, every movie fan is going to clock that immediately and go, well, that's a tribute to the original Halloween.
Absolutely. Donald Pleasance, Dr. Loomis, absolutely.
And of course,
and I will say, I was making fun of the scene earlier, but when he, finally gets to touch that dinosaur and I think he's even crying and stuff. He does that well.
yeah.
It wasn't a criticism of him. It was just that, they're trying to recreate the magic from something and it's not working. He does a good job selling that, I've wanted to do this my whole life or whatever, he's good in that.
And you know what, from the trivia I learned that actually makes that scene a little cooler, even in my opinion, is Jonathan Bailey actually plays clarinet on some of the score.
Yes.
And he actually played the solo of that music while he's touching a dinosaur. So while you're watching Jonathan Bailey touch a dinosaur, his clarinet playing is playing. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Talented
I will
guy.
say. Yeah. I think he definitely comes out looking the best in this movie.
Yeah. And then we won't go through the whole cast because there's more, but I just want to also mention Mahershala Ali played Duncan Kincaid. The first thing I ever saw Mahershala Ali in was Predators in 2010.
Yep.
And I remember being kind of surprised when he blew up in the mid 2010s.
Hasn't he won 2 Oscars?
I think so. He's definitely been in 2 Best Picture winners.
I think he's won 2 Best Supporting Actor Oscars.
I think you're right. Moonlight in 2016 was the first
Yeah.
Best Picture winner. He was in Green Book in 2018. Now, one of those is considered one of the best movies of of this century, and one of them is considered one of the worst Best Picture winners. So
Yeah.
whatever.
Right. Whatever.
I don't really feel like being in those movies within 2 years of each other has really vaulted him the way I would have expected.
Right.
He hasn't been in a ton of movies since then, or especially hasn't been in a ton of big movies. He was in the movie Leave the World Behind in 2023, which is a
Yeah.
Netflix movie. It was okay.
It's fine. Yeah.
And in this movie, he's another one. Like, he's good. He has a presence, but I was like, nice guy mercenary is kind of a weird part.
I think he has even less interesting character than Scarlett Johansson in this movie. I mean, they try to give him a backstory. Like, apparently, him and his wife had a child who died somehow. We never get into it, and a couple times he looks at his picture, but it none of that really works at all.
Yeah. And so he is like really about like, hey, let's get this family safe. But that's what I mean. Like,
But they didn't lean into that enough, I don't think.
yeah, they're just
Like, if
needed
you're
to
gonna
be
do
more
that,
something.
just go all out with it. I don't know. It just didn't work for me.
I think it would have been better too as like a late movie reveal almost. You know, like you can reference like him losing his son, but maybe like at the end, you know, have him seeing like the kids in danger, and then all you need to do is give us the moment where he decides to sacrifice himself. Like if that was the first moment where you see
Yeah.
him doing that, but when the whole movie he's kind of like, we just got to save these kids, kind of references it.
Yeah.
It's at the end, you're like, well, I know what he's gonna do.
Yeah.
And so I do think one of the issues with this movie is, and it's not like most movies aren't like this, but right from the beginning of the movie, you can look at all the characters who are on this adventure and go, they're gonna die, they're gonna die, they're gonna die, and they're gonna live, they're gonna live, they're gonna live, and it kind of takes all the tension out of.
Very easy to predict who lives and dies in this movie. Very, very easy.
I mean, even
The only one I kind of wondered about was the boyfriend.
yeah,
I kind of thought maybe he'd do something stupid, or because they were really leaning into him at the beginning of the movie, just kind of being a douchebag in a way. So I didn't know if there was going to be like he had a chance to help everyone and he just takes off running or something and gets eaten. But I didn't really care one way or another. But that was the only character I was a little unsure about.
yeah. Even Mahershala Ali's character Duncan, when he sacrifices himself and like draws away the dinosaur, I was like, they're not gonna let him die, and of course
He's
they
not
don't.
dead.
Yeah,
No.
he gets out.
And
It's fine.
we got the kind of the corporate guy who's kind of the human bad guy of the movie. The second he handcuffs that briefcase to his arm or to his wrist, you know 1,000% that it's just going to be a severed arm still handcuffed to that briefcase, and that's exactly what happens.
Yes, you are right.
Yeah.
Yeah. The the dinosaurs in the movie have all the great dramatic timing of knowing which characters they can kill and which ones they can't. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
it just cracks you up like Duncan Kincaid slowly lowering the big bad mutant dinosaur at the end away with the flares, and of course the dinosaur's just gonna like slowly creep toward him with the flares. Like, yeah, I can't aggressively go after you because you're
No,
a main
because you have
character.
to live.
Yeah,
Well, it's like that one dude when they're rappelling down the mountain, that flying dinosaur is just toying with him the entire way up the mountain. And then when he gets up, the dude's like halfway down the dinosaur's mouth. And it's like, so the characters that are supposed to die, they can just toy with them at will and slowly hunt them and eat them. And then the other characters, they can't catch them to save their lives.
yeah. I would love to see someone do like a counter, like a clicker going through this movie and clicking every time a dinosaur chomps at somebody and misses.
Oh, gosh. You're right. They lean way too much on that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, a couple other things from the trivia that I thought was interesting is that this is the first film in the series not to feature any cast members from the original movie, which we were saying it's kind of like the first kind of real hard reset, even though
Reset, yeah.
it's all still connected. By not putting any original members in, they're trying to do its own unique thing.
They are. And I guess in some ways I kind of did appreciate that approach because we've had 6, previous movies. I don't need to see, somebody else from the Lost World shoehorned into this movie for no reason. So I kind of did appreciate that.
Yeah. I here's the thing: as much as we're talking about like it's not a great movie, and this says something about the franchise, I guess. If I'm having to think, well, where does this rank amongst the Jurassic Park slash World franchise? Obviously, Jurassic Park, the original, is like in a tier of its own. Then
Yeah.
there's 5 tiers that are empty between that and whatever the next one is.
Uh-huh.
But like honestly, this might be in the conversation for the second best.
Yeah,
And
I would agree.
and it's
Like
just
I kind of was a sucker for the first Jurassic World because it was like everyone was kind of all in on Chris Pratt at that point, and I mean
yeah.
I definitely got sucked into that, and I do think it holds up. It's just kind of as a fun fun movie, but yeah, the other Jurassic Worlds. I mean, in one of the Jurassic World movies, they literally like clone a girl in a lab, and you're just like,
Yeah.
what?
There's a whole big plot line about giant created locust and
Yeah,
yeah, it's just
like
it's
honestly,
silly.
what was the last Jurassic World? Dominion.
I think so.
I I saw that in the theater. I don't know if I could tell you three scenes from that movie. Like I just don't remember that movie at all.
It wasn't good.
No. Yeah, I did know that, but yeah, and it's like, the Lost World. It's fine, but man, it's just no Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park 3 is just pretty bad,
Hmm.
and so yeah, you're right. It might be.
Uh, Another thing I had never thought about until I was reading the trivia that Zora, the Scarlett Johansson character, is the first on-screen human to kill a dinosaur with a gun.
Yeah,
And I was like, that's interesting. Yeah, she does. In the little tunnel, she shoots the one
yeah,
dinosaur until it finally stops. And I was like, I guess that's weird. We're 7 movies in, and that had not happened before.
that's interesting. I feel like that was a pretty clear homage to Aliens.
Hmm.
There's a character that shoots. They're kind of crawling around in tunnels and
Yeah,
stuff, and yeah.
you're probably yeah. That would make sense with all the
I don't know
homages
that, but it seemed like it
well,
was.
with the other homages that are sprinkled throughout this
Yeah.
one, it would make sense.
Yeah.
And then maybe to me the most interesting bit of trivia is that our guy Glenn Powell turned down a role.
Turn
As
down a role?
he didn't feel he could add anything to the film, but went on to praise the script and express his love for the franchise. I'm assuming that Glenn Powell was approached to play the nerdy scientist guy that Jonathan Bailey plays.
Right.
And
And
I,
as
yeah,
as much as I would have loved to just seen what he could do with this, I am glad he stayed away from it.
yeah, I think it was the right choice for Glenn. And actually, I'll just say this: I think Jonathan Bailey probably was the better choice. I think
I
Glenn
think
Powell is
so.
just a little too.
He's too
He's
much of a star.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas Jonathan Bailey, I think, was able to just slide into the role a little easier.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
The critics have been as hard on this as we've been. The critics only gave
Yeah.
it a 52% on Rotten
Yep.
Tomatoes. Audience is a little higher, 72%. But I think that actually says something. I think audiences are usually pretty high on the Jurassic Park and World movies.
Yeah.
And so I think even audiences are kind of leaving this just being like, eh.
I'll tell you this, I went with my three of my four kids, teenagers, couple of Molly's friends, shout out Lexi and Chloe, and everyone was just kind of like, okay, like it was fine. So, like a lot of times you go to see just an action summer blockbuster with a bunch of teenagers, and it's going to be like, oh, that was awesome, and wasn't getting a whole lot of that.
Yeah.
Nobody was hating on it, but everyone was just kind of like, yeah, it was fine.
It was a movie.
Yeah, it was a movie. I think someone actually said that.
Yeah. So it had a budget of 180 million, which is actually, I think, a big step down from the
It
last
was.
couple of Jurassic World movies.
Dude,
Which,
the very last Jurassic World movie had like a $500 million budget or just something that makes me furious.
yeah, it was insane.
Yeah.
So this one a little more reasonable. And of course, what they did is they tried to just keep it a little smaller, limited characters, limited setting, as opposed to being
Yep, and I do appreciate
world-traversing
that.
thing. Yeah. And then I think it's actually done pretty well worldwide, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's already up to like $325 million. So
Yeah.
it's
So,
gonna get profitable pretty quickly.
yeah, I would imagine that this is viewed as a success.
Yeah. The interesting thing will be just that this coming weekend Superman comes out. So I don't know if Jurassic World's going to take just some kind of huge hit. I'll be interested to see what kind of staying power it has.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And
But
then,
yeah, I mean it had a big opening, so
yeah,
I'm sure there'll be another one.
that's exactly what I was about to say. Is that it's doing well enough that I'm sure we'll get the eighth Jurassic World
I'm
movie.
sure we will. Also, did you see that after the opening of this movie, Scarlett Johansson is officially the highest grossing actor ever?
Oh wow!
Yeah.
I mean,
So, I mean,
good for
kudos to
her.
her.
Yeah,
Yeah. Good. Kudos to her. I do like Scarlett Johansson, but
yeah, I do
yeah,
too.
she is the highest grossing actor ever. So that's quite an accomplishment.
I would say so.
Yeah.
I
Of
any
course, it
idea?
helps when you're in Infinity War and Endgame, and those movies combined for like $4 billion, literally.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you have any idea who she passed?
Yeah, I saw it at some point. Maybe Samuel L. Jackson. Yeah,
Another one that makes sense.
yeah.
I would have just guessed like Zoe Saldana because she also has the
She's up there too
MCU, but
because she's
got
an
the
Avatar, and yeah,
movies, which make
yeah.
billions
She's
of
up there.
dollars. Yeah,
Yep.
so good for them.
Yeah, good for them.
Yeah, ultimately we are just obviously not super high on this movie, but
No, and I hate it. Like we talk about it all the time. I don't. I want to come on here and be enthusiastic about stuff, but man, and maybe I shouldn't have come out as hot as I did at the opening
I
because
like
it's
it when you
not
come out
bad.
hot, Andy.
It's not bad, but it's so forgettable that I do think saying it's not good is justified. It just it did not need to exist.
Yeah, I think if I have friends that tell me they like it, I'm not going to be like, I can't believe you like that, but
Yeah.
I'll just say it wasn't for me.
No, just go watch Jurassic Park. It's 30 whatever years old and it's still incredible.
Still the best one.
By like you said,
yeah.
by miles and miles and miles.
Yeah. So the next time that we will be on here reviewing a movie, you said it will be doing Superman.
Yeah.
I've been trying as best as I can to avoid spoilers. That's the annoying thing about social media these days is I can't help but see just like the early critical reactions to it, which I don't want to know. But I don't know. I'm interested. That's what I'll say. I'm very curious to see what James Gunn is going to do with this franchise.
I am too. My worst fear realized would be that if we were back together next week saying the same thing of like, why did they make this movie?
Yeah.
Because we've seen a lot of Superman content in the last 10 to 12 years, starting with Man of Steel. So
Yes, we have.
we'll see.
We'll see. Well, until then, I think we are going to have a special little extra bonus pod, just a small one, just to recap where we are so far in the year 2025.
Yeah, can't
So
wait.
We hope people will join us for that, and we will see you guys then.
Absolutely.